Good morning. You're watching Much Ado About Something, and I'm Donna. Well, today it's a beautiful fall day. It's a crisp day. This will be my Vlogtober day number 10 video for you. And what I'm going to share with you today is how to make homemade apple cider. Now, apple cider is a wonderful treat that comes in the fall. It's really easy to make. It's so enjoyable, either warm or cold. And so today we have plenty of apples, and that's what we're going to work on. Now I've got about 5 pounds of apples here, and it doesn't matter what kind they are. You can have a mix of any kind. Whatever's the most affordable or the easy to access for you would be the ideal thing to make apple cider from. And then later, if you want to learn to create different tastes, you can try different apples and see what happens. But just start a standard base of a mix of apples that you can acquire to start out with. So the first thing we're going to do is wash these apples. I'm just going to put them in this bowl here. It'll be easy for me to wash them. You can put a tiny drop of soap, dish soap, or whatever you generally wash your fruits and vegetables in. I've got some fruit and vegetable wash, and I'm just going to spray it in here. It'll help get anything off of these apples that might be on them. You can tell I've got a mix of apples here. I like to get some dark colored apples. These are Arkansas blacks, but if you get some good dark red apples, it'll add a rich color to your cider. So we're just going to wash our apples. Now our next step after we've got our apples good and clean is we're just going to chop them up into about 8 pieces per apple. We're going to leave seeds and cores and everything in. We're not going to do anything to clean these up other than wash them, because we'll be straining them at the end of the process after the cider has been on the stove for a little while. Doesn't matter what size apples you have. You can have big ones, small ones. Most any apple is good for cider. Okay, now that we've got our apples cut up, we're going to go ahead and put them in our pot. You want a pot big enough to hold all your apples. And once you get them in there, you want to cover them with water. Now my apples are floating a little bit, but I want about 4 inches. I want to cover my apples and have about 4 inches over the apples. Now we're going to be simmering this for a while. We're going to simmer this for about 3 hours. And with simmering it, we're going to leave the lid off for the first half of the time. For about an hour and a half, we're going to leave the lid off. So I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for an hour and a half. And then I'll come back in and put the lid on. And when I put the lid on for the second hour and a half, that'll hold in some more of the liquid. Now these apples have a lot of juice in them, and so when we simmer these, it's going to cause the juice to come out into the water. Now ideally you would press the juice out of these apples, but I'm not able to do that. I don't have an apple press. Even if I had an apple press, I wouldn't have anywhere to store it. So I've just, I'm going to wait until my apples, my 3 hours of simmering my apples, and then I'll show you what we'll do next. Well, our apples have cooked for an hour and a half. They've simmered. With the lid off for an hour and a half. So now we're going to put the lid on and let them simmer for the other hour and a half. Oops. Just have to cancel that and start over. There we go. Got it simmering with the lid on. So we'll go an hour and 30 minutes, and then it'll be ready to be strained. All right, our time is up cooking our cider with our lid on. And so here we go. Here's our cider. Now it might vary on appearance as the apples that you put into your cider. But this has been simmering for 3 hours. And you can see the apples have almost just dissipated in there. But what we're going to do now is we're going to strain these apples out of this cider. Now a couple of the grandchildren are here, so if you hear them in the background, you'll know that they're here. Now I have a container here and I have a mesh strainer, and what I'm going to do is just dip out these apples and strain it through this mesh. And as it drains, I'm just going to empty these peelings and things that are right here. I'm going to empty them into a bowl. And I'm going to press it a little bit with a spoon so I can get all of that juice out, all of that good cider. And you just keep doing this until you get all of those apples out of there. all of those good juices that we've cooked out of these apples for the last 3 hours. And I'm just taking a spoon and pressing it through. What, sweetie?
Can you just let me smell that women up there?
Sure. I am making apple cider. I'm doing an apple cider video. You smell?
I can't smell it.
You can't?
No. I can't smell it.
Here you go. Smell this.
Oh, yes, that was
Are you going to get you something to drink? Once we get all of the apples that we had sliced up put in here, what we're left with here is the cider. Now there's plenty more left in this pot. So I'm just going to move over here to the sink. I've brought my vessel that I'm putting my cider in and my strainer. And I've dipped all of the apples out that I could with a dipper, and I've used a spoon. And so now I'm just going to pour what is left in here through this strainer. So I've poured all of my apples and all of my cider out of there. Look at that. That almost just looks like applesauce, doesn't it? As you can see. Now I haven't added any sugar or any spices to this cider. It's just the cider from the apples. Now I'm going to taste it. I love hot cider, and it's delicious. But I'm going to add just a tiny bit of brown sugar to each one of these. Maybe just one big serving spoonful. That might equal about a cup of sugar or 3/4 of a cup of sugar. I'm choosing brown sugar because I really like the taste of that, and I think it'll add a little bit of more color to this cider. Now you can choose to not add any sweetener. My cup of sugar was not packed. Now each one of these vessels is about a gallon each. So I'll put a cup of loose, not packed cup of brown sugar in each one. This one's a little more full than this one. And I'm going to stir that up. Now I'm not adding any spices to this, no cinnamon or nutmeg or anything like that, because once you do that, then your cider becomes mulled cider. And so that's not what I'm making today. I'm just making a cider base, just making a simple apple cider. But if you want to add cinnamon or nutmeg or anything else to your cider, then feel free to do that. It's good and warm and it smells really good. And I'm going to let this cool off and then I'll put it into jugs. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and help myself to a cup of it. Now we got to taste it and see what it tastes like. Oh my goodness. It tastes like fall. It's delicious. I love apple cider. And it's easy to make at home. We didn't use any special equipment that most kitchens don't already have. It just took us a little effort and a little time. And we turned our apples into some delicious apple cider. Well, thank you for joining me today. I hope you try some good apple cider. It's really good. And I hope you have a good day. Thank you for joining me.